welcome back to another MarketMooo. So this is episode 7 of our 4th season.
Yep.
So Jurgen, a lot has been happening over the last weeks. We've seen some very high temperatures within Europe.
Yep.
Right now it seems, pretty normal actually.
In the Netherlands, this is
nice.
great. Yeah, it's
Early
not too
20s.
hot.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We've even had some rain,
Yeah.
which is also good for the environment, the grass, the cows. What
But
effects
it's
are
too
you...
little, too late.
Is it though? That's the question.
It is. It probably is. Because indeed, you have the heat wave. And we discussed heat waves earlier where they affect milk production pretty directly. And it takes milk production returns after the heat wave. Might take a few days or weeks, but it returns. But the longer term effect is the drought. And we had pretty serious droughts in Europe, and that's a longer term effect for farmers because they don't have that much pasture and it's of worse quality. That crushes their margin because later in the year they have to, buy extra feed because the grass simply isn't growing hard enough, strong enough. So that's a problem.
Yeah. Okay. And so, are you seeing an effect of that on the prices now?
Perhaps. I spoke with some dairy farmers from the Netherlands, for example, and that was a complaint they had that it's the grass isn't growing and it's of bad quality, and in the end, all the fat and protein in the milk come from the grass in a lot of cases, unless you feed, of course. But
and are you seeing more effect on either, like more on fat than on protein, or the other way around?
I think currently it's both. Usually at heat waves, the heat has anecdotally a bit more effect on the fat. Okay. But in terms of grass quality, it's now worse for both components. So if you talk to Europeans, the bullish argument that they could give you is, hey, milk production is going to be in trouble compared to the really strong figures of last year. And most of the official reports are still reporting June, which is,
pre-heat wave. Yeah.
So it's watch those reports from July and August and onwards. But this is a problem for farmers in the European context.
Yeah, and then if we move to the US, because it's quite a different situation over there.
Yeah, they are actually, well, not that every American is bearish, but their milk production is strong and it continues to be strong. The herd looks good, big herd. Yield per cow is still okay. They had less overall, less negative impact from the weather. And their recent milk production was posted over this weekend, and it was still more than 2% growth. So, hey.
Yeah, very different picture over there. That's not bad.
Yeah, not bad. Yeah.
And New Zealand, in their season now.
Yeah, and still writing green figures, 6% up, which is really strong, and things are looking good. But their worry is on the longer run, and talk of the town is still El Nino there and the impact it has. And when you look at New Zealand dairy, for example, El Nino could negatively impact milk production. They do have pretty strong pasture, so the negative effect of El Nino, which could start in December, January, could be postponed a little because you still have, good pasture yourself. But it could negatively affect milk production. And then when you look at New Zealand's dairy production, whole milk powder is in those peak months. Q1 is like a part of those peak months, and it's whole milk powder production, and that might suffer. Skimmed milk powder production is in the shoulder months usually, so the S&P production might be neutral, and the whole milk powder production might be a bit.
Okay, that's something to watch for sure.
Yeah, it's something to watch, and that at least is the talk of the town. It also comes with a lot of sentiment, and it has a picture outside of dairy. When you look at all the food production across the globe, El Nino is a factor in that.
Yeah, and if we look at animal diseases, is there any news on that? I mean, we heard some blue tongue disease in the UK.
In the UK, correct. So that's one. And they're currently injecting cows to avoid a problem. There are vaccines. And there's a Smolenberg-esque virus in Germany, Switzerland, France, and parts of the Netherlands.
So what kind of virus is that? It's the first time we've heard this.
Yeah, and it's not Smolenberg, but it's sort of something like that, and it spreads through these midgets, as was blue tongue, for example. The heat also comes with problems for cows in terms of diseases and physical fitness, etc. But so far it hasn't negatively impacted that much yet. So the impact so far is very limited on milk production. Cows could become a bit sick, but so far it's not the blue tongue that we saw 2 years ago.
Yeah, are you expecting more effect of the diseases going forward, or?
There's a screwworm to watch out for in the US, and it has reached the US from the south, from Mexico. It can have an impact on cattle, but so far the impact on dairy cows is also still limited.
Okay. All right, well, that's a good thing at least.
Yeah.
And how are you seeing demand? Let's start with fat products.
Yeah, fat products. Yeah, that's a great product. No, they are well. When you look at Europe, for example, butter production has been really strong in the past 12 months. So the stock build was really strong. So that's your bearish argument. You still have to eat your way through quite a bit of stock.
Quite some stocks around. Yeah.
But the heat wave had a negative impact on milk production, on the fat production. It might be a boost for cream demand. And the thing you also want to look at outside of the whole butter balance sheet is, hey, what is cream doing? Is it a driver for your butter prices? Because cream could be in demand or not. And currently we saw in the recent weeks at least that cream indeed became a bit more of a driver than what it had been in the past 12 months. So that's the other thing. Stock levels, I assume that they're still high, but demand is also pretty fair domestically. Exports are okay, but the US is winning market share. So the exports are not awesome out of Europe.
No, but I mean, European butter prices are half of what they were about 12, 15 months ago.
And,
so still quite a normal
which is
butter
also
price.
good for domestic. It's anecdotally, but when I walk into the supermarket, you see, a year, 2 years ago, when butter prices went through the roof, we were seeing all kinds of alternative things added to what used to be butter, and now that's gone. So now it's butter
We're back
again.
to pure butter.
Yeah.
So now you're back buying butter.
Of course, croissants, everything. Yeah.
There you go. And on the protein side of things?
Same story. When you walk into a supermarket, everything is protein.
Yeah.
I found tuna with big letters protein.
Protein.
Yeah, it already contains quite a bit of protein, but there's still the protein hype so high over. Demand for protein is actually quite strong. Yogurt production is strong, etc. When you look at all the US domestic utilization reports, they're all positive, as in double-digit growth for the domestic utilization. It's coming from perhaps a bottom a few years ago. The domestic utilization was low, but I think things are thriving on that protein hype, and it looks, at least, from my perspective, here to stay for a while, that whole protein demand.
Yeah, and we are seeing quite some producers switching from, for example, whey powders to WPCs. So that might give a bit more capacity in the market, a bit more availability of products.
Yeah,
also a bit longer term, probably.
Yeah, and there's MPCs, of course, because WPC 80 WPI is quite expensive, but you can look at MPCs as an alternative where possible. So that's going on. And of course, there's this whole split between whey proteins and say milk proteins, and that's an interesting dynamic indeed.
Yeah, are you seeing customers switch from whey proteins to milk proteins?
It's not always possible. So it has, you need to research if it's possible.
Yeah. And different declarations as well.
Exactly. Yeah. But if it's possible, it might be reasonable to look into that because of the price difference between MPCs and WPCs.
Yeah. And on skim milk powder, the demand there?
Yeah, colleagues in Southeast Asia are actually pretty enthusiastic about demand, and they have been
for a while,
and that was valid because when all the trade data is published, they were right on that, and they're still positive. China had local S&P prices on the rise, and they are on low stocks, and a lot of people are assuming therefore, okay, they are on low stocks, so they must buy a lot. But you also want to look into the end products that they use S&P for, and those might be, infant formula is perhaps the most clear example. How much infant formula do you still need in China? It's not comparable to what they needed like 15, 10 years ago. So, there's a nuance there. But overall, I would say domestic use for proteins is still strong in Europe and the US. There are regions that are, looking to buy a bit more, but things are getting a bit more expensive as well.
Yeah.
And,
might see some demand destruction.
Eventually, you would think so, yeah. But there's Ramadan coming, Chinese New Year, and demand looks good.
Yeah.
But do not underestimate how much S&P Europe produced. Similar for butter, we had milk surplus. There was oversupply, so.
Yeah, because now if you look at European skim milk powder prices, we're at what highest level we've been in last 4 years or so.
Yeah, something like that. I think 3-4 years.
Yeah. It's interesting. Yeah. So just to summarize this episode, some bullish arguments, some bearish arguments.
Bullish argument in protein is probably still demand. And another bullish argument in general is the worries on European milk production, which was negatively affected by weather. And there are some worries on New Zealand milk production in Q1 also being affected by El Nino. So there's that.
On the other hand, bearish would be that the US is seeing a good milk production.
Exactly. Yeah.
And there's also a bit of price, bit of a gap still between European prices and US prices.
Yeah,
so that could be a bit of a bearish argument for European prices even.
And if the US doesn't have the non-fat dry milk outlet 100% at home, suppose they need to export because they don't want to have a stock build or something like that, then they would want to be competitive, and you have correlation between the three again, which is the default. So indeed, that's somewhat of a bearish argument, you could say.
Yeah.
And fat, what surprises me if you zoom out, because a lot of people were assuming, okay, GLP-1 drugs, Ozempic, all that kind of stuff is driving the protein hype, which is partially true, perhaps. It's also just a popular product for people
it's not
who don't
just
use.
That people who are using
it
Ozempic
has a really positive image.
Of course, yeah.
And the trade-off was, okay, proteins are in demand, which is the case, but people would want to avoid fat. But butter is actually still in quite popular demand. And what surprises me, but that says something about me as well, if you zoom out and you think about, okay, what was I thinking 2-3 years ago? Okay, proteins will be in demand, but fat will be in less demand. Then the butter demand is still somewhat surprising to me, as it's still good. And I eat it, I like it, don't get me wrong.
Okay. Very good. Well, one thing to mention before we end this episode is that we have a special guest next week. No, not next week. Next episode.
Next episode, indeed.
Which is not next week.
No, it's in a few weeks, usually the end of the month. It's Jurgen, and he's a specialist into this whole high protein stuff.
Exactly. This is such a hype. We need him here to tell our viewers a bit more about the protein market.
Yeah, he has been here before, a while ago, so we'll have him back.
Yes, great. All right. Hopefully you can join us all for that. Thank you.